I want to suck your blood, blah, blah, blah. 2026 brings us our newest adaptation of Dracula. Well, actually 2025 because it was released overseas like a few months ago. But hey, it's here now. Cut to showing the title, blah, blah, blah.
Aye, aye, Captain!
So I have never actually seen a Dracula movie until now, unless you count Hotel Transylvania. Blah, blah, blah.
I don't say blah, blah, blah.
Classic. But based on what I'm hearing, this is basically just 1992's Bram Stoker's Dracula film, but 2.0. But is that a good thing? Let's dig in. So the premise of this film changes it up a little bit. They do a reimagining, so rather than showing the horror gothic tale of Dracula, it's more of a love story that spans centuries. So our main character of Dracula, played by Caleb Landry Jones, sees his wife brutally murdered at the hands of his enemies in the 15th century. He then gets angry, he renounces God, does some other sketchy stuff, and boom, vampire. Because, you know, when you denounce God, you become a blood-sucking demon. Or you get smot. I don't know. Apparently becoming a vampire is one of the options. As the centuries go on, he's on the search for his reincarnated bride and may have come to a lead. His quest to reunite with his beloved pits him against hunters, priests, and yeah, then just a lot of stuff happens. So before I get to the good, bad, and the ugly, because there's all three, tell me, what is your favorite Dracula movie? As someone who hasn't seen a lot, what would you suggest? Or am I good with just liking Hotel Transylvania?
I don't know.
Blah, blah, blah. Alright, the good. One of the best parts was Dracula himself. Caleb Landry Jones really nailed this role. And something that is very impressive is he is 400 years old in this movie. And you see flashbacks of him spanning these different eras. And I think it's like probably 6 or 7 different eras. He gets the looks down, the acting down for the different timepieces. I mean, there was one part that kind of looked like a high school play to me where he has a mustache. Looks like it's taped on, but maybe that's what mustaches looked like back then. The prosthetics were great, which I would hope so, because it took them 6 to 7 hours to apply them to make him look like Dracula at 400 years old. And then they had over 200 prosthetics for his arms, hands, face. So they went all in with the costume design.
Damn!
I mean, his head at one point looks like someone just put like a bunch of square knives and pushed into his forehead because it just looks like squares. But hey, maybe that's what happens when you're 400 years old. We don't know. The wrinkles turn into nice, just perfectly shaped squares. And at the risk of sounding like a judgmental tool, there are a few times Dracula looked like a weird, evil toad, like with no neck. That's not a diss on Caleb Landry. He doesn't always look like that, but I guess it added to the creepiness. I am Count Dracula, blah, blah, blah. One of our other main leads, Zoe Blue, who played Elisabetta, Dracula's dead wife, and Mina, the reincarnated wife. She did good, but there is something big that kept me from really enjoying her, and we'll get to that in my critiques. As far as the visuals of the movie, I mean, it looked pretty. It went kind of away from the horror gothic vibes of the original Dracula, besides when they're at his castle, and they added a lot more color, or would you say contemporary art? Yeah, sure, let's say that. I am a man with fine tastes. But yeah, a lot of brighter sets than what I would think for a Dracula movie. And I think that's where the romance came in. They're trying to show more the romance of the times and Dracula looking for his love. Now for what I struggled with, which is a lot more than what I liked, sadly. Or maybe not sadly, I don't care. It's just a movie. Unless you worked on it. Then, I guess, sadly. So besides the little things, which I guess little things right at the beginning were weird. I mean, Dracula sends his princess off to be protected by just 3 or 4 soldiers. And he has her dressed up as royalty riding through the woods on a horse. Like, oh, that's not going to stand out. And why do you have to send her away anyways? Just protect her at the castle. And then when Dracula comes to save her, he just comes alone because movie logic. And when he's mad, why does he look like an alien toad goldfish? Like I said, not judgmental. I'm just curious. And then the supporting cast was just disappointing. It felt like just a bunch of very underdeveloped characters. They'd kind of partially developed them and then they're just kind of there and never really brought satisfaction. I mean, the guy that plays Jonathan, the lawyer that comes to visit Dracula, he's just super clueless, which at first I'm like, sure, that's his character. And then they switch it to where he's like really intense and I don't know, just a lot of tonal shifts there. And then the biggest actor disappointment, Christopher Waltz. Such a good actor. We've seen Django Unchained. We've seen Inglourious Basterds. I thought he was great in Frankenstein. But this was a very lackluster performance from him. It felt like he took all his different roles and just kind of took a basic average of all of them and then toned it down to like 5 or 10%. And that's what we got. I think it was supposed to come off comedic and suave, but it just kind of came off awkward and blah, blah, blah. All right, now hold on. We're going to go through a lot real quick. I'm not going to spoil the ending. I'm not going to spoil specific parts, but I am going to share some characters they threw into this that I thought were weird. So we have stone CGI gargoyles in this movie, which would be fine if it was like a cheesy CGI fest action Dracula movie, but it just seemed out of place. Instead of having like henchmen or whatever else that I think would have fit the gothic feel more, we have little 3-foot tall stone gargoyles that were kind of comedic, I guess.
Oh, man! I thought he'd never leave.
I guess vampires can just do whatever they want with their powers. Maybe that should be my superpower. Screw Marvel characters. Be a vampire, but not Morbius. And then for the few action scenes we had, the choreography was not very choreographic, I might say. I mean, Dracula looked cool as he's slicing people up. You see it in the trailer. But it's just these army dudes just kind of lining up like, all right, cut my throat now. All right, cut my throat. And I get it's not supposed to be an action piece, but come on, put a little effort in. Like, if there's that many guys attacking, have them moving a little more. But now for my big three. 1, the romance. Not believable. That's one reason the actress that plays Mina and Elisabetta didn't really sell me. Is not that it's their fault, it's the writers. At the end, the romance just doesn't really click. And I get Dracula isn't your basic Nicholas Sparks love story, but it was just awkward, and I think it's because of all the conflicting tones. They try to go with the horror aspect, then the romance aspect, then the artsy-fartsy aspect, and then random comedy. Doesn't really mesh well to make for a good love story that I'm just sitting there going, man, this is tragic. It's more like, this movie's kind of tragic. And then they added in this weird plot involving perfume. So Dracula, being the good guy he is, as long as you discount the murders, the blood-sucking, and everything else, he wants to find his reincarnated wife, but he doesn't want to use his powers to force her against her will to find him. So through various testings and him traveling the world, he discovers the perfect perfume that basically puts women and men in a trance, and they just flock to him and basically are controlled, even though he said he didn't want to control. It just was weird. He puts it on his neck, people come flocking, and he's like, yes, yes. And I think it would have just been cooler if he did use some vampire voodoo mind powers. Because perfume that's so scientifically advanced that it puts you in a trance and you can't help but lust after him, I don't know. And then at the end, when he discovers Mina's still around, the perfume plot just disappears. Like, oh, I guess that worked for him to, have some orgies and have some fun. But he didn't actually want to use it to find Mina, I guess. Blah, blah, blah. And mainly, I was just bored. There were parts I liked, but overall, I don't often feel bored in a movie. I think there's 2 last year out of all the ones I saw, which was a lot, that I felt like I kind of want this to end so I can go home. And that's how I felt with this one, which is a bummer because I was pretty excited to see it. I think they just tried to do too much with the tones, the themes, and didn't flesh other parts out that could have been stronger. Basically, I just want to go back and watch the 1992 Bram Stoker's Dracula now. I mean, Keanu Reeves as Jonathan
is really going to be breathtaking. You're breathtaking.
Gary Oldman as Dracula, Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing, which, by the way, was kind of Christopher Waltz's part in this movie, but he was just called the priest, and once again, very underwhelming. But yeah, I probably will just skip this one, never watch it again, and go try some other Dracula movies. But what did you think? Do you think I'm being too harsh? What do you think went right in this movie? Do you think it could have been better? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thanks for joining me in the bathroom. Makes you kind of weird, but hey, this is a weird place. I'm glad to have you.